like David and I were chatting about this yesterday, and we've done these studies and about men being a warrior, being a king, all these great things that I think that's kind of the first thing most of us gravitate towards. But being a husband, being a partner, that's something we don't talk about enough, because it's almost like, oh, that's not the manly side. That's not, I don't want to talk about that right now. But I think it's so important that we do, because that is a big component of being a man, especially when you have a wife, when you have kids. Your marriage is something you really have to be intentional about, and it can't just be left on the back burner after everything, and then your family gets the scraps of you when everything else is, when the world has taken its pieces from you, your family gets the leftover. And that's where we see a lot of these men who become tyrants at home, who, are short-tempered or just lack self-control and discipline, especially at the home, where really God is calling us more into the home to lead properly.
And I'm just thinking about what you just said, and it's a beautiful thing. However, we as men, right, so many times we think that the encounters that we have, we think what other men are going to see us as.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a second, I'm talking to my wife. What type of man does she need me to be? Maybe today she needs me to be a warrior. But maybe in an hour she needs me to be a friend, a lover. And I feel like that's a complete man can actually bounce from one to another.
True.
In the nick of time. And I feel like, again, to what we were talking about, it's about that discipline. Be in tune with that. Know how to differentiate between a warrior situation versus a friend situation. I was talking to Angelo, and, me, when I get frustrated or when I get angry about a situation, it's like, if somebody comes and tells me to calm down, I get more angry. The only way you're going to calm me down is get angry with me, because I feel like that's my way of me being seen. And it's like, okay, somebody understands what I'm going through. So I'm like, okay, I need to calm down, because I don't want to work this person up, to the level. I know I can calm down now, but if I let it go too much, I know that maybe they may get to a place where it's harder for them to cool off. So it's like, okay, thank you. My wife, on the other hand, if she gets mad at a situation or whatever, she needs somebody that, hey, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. I'm here, I'm next to you. I'm not gonna let you fall. We're gonna go through this together. And let's sit down and let's talk about it. And so many times I act towards her as I want her to act towards me. And then that's not what she needs. She needs me to be in tune with her, and vice versa. But so many times I'm just in tune with myself, and then I just give my version of myself, which is selfish, more self-absorbed, more, that ego, that pride, it comes out more than that lover, friend. So I feel like, it's a beautiful thing to try to be more in tune with that. And I'm guilty of it, because I know, like, there's so many times where I fail at that.
I'd argue that out of the four faces, the lover face is absolutely the most important. Because Jesus put such an emphasis on love, to the fact that he told us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves.
Even our enemies.
Yeah. And what do you do if you get slapped? Turn the other cheek, right? An emphasis on love. And if you think about it, if we're in tune with our lover face, it'll help the most important earthly relationship we can possibly have, which is your spouse. When you have a lover face, you learn things like patience. You learn empathy, sympathy. You're able to relate to people. You're able to build all of these relationships, not just in your marriage or in your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But when you're able to develop that, it has a really powerful effect. Imagine if everyone on this planet was in tune with their lover face spiritually. There'd be no war. There would be that respect for brothers. There wouldn't be, misunderstandings and how to, everyone would like help you with issues from a place of good. There would be no quid pro quo to anything.
Unfortunately, we live in a world that a perfect love to exist, good and evil, it's always going to be at war.
Right.
So because of that, I know it's the most important, but we also have to train that warrior side to be ready when that war is coming. Because again, I totally agree with you, because none of that would happen. However, evil is also listening, and the only way he knows how to attack you is by what we're telling him.
Yeah.
I was going to say, no, go ahead.
I just find, in my personal experience, I use my lover. I have to use my lover face every single day.
Yeah.
My warrior face, not so much.
You do make a point there.
My leader face, not so much.
You said lover face, right? Like
yeah. It's from the 33 series that we did, and they talk about like the different faces of man. Think of it like a hat, right? This is my lover hat. I gotta put it on. I have to use it every single day.
Mm-hmm. And I used to be that way, and
Interesting.
I think about how, working with healthcare and working with older people and the people you work with and coworkers and all different types of jobs, you kind of have to have this face of, I'm here to care, I'm here to show empathy, I'm here to be a helper and a healer. When I think about, the decades of working, and I've done that, it's been great, but also you realize later, at least I am now, like when I remove ego from that, a lot of it was trying to be the person who was labeled, this is the helper, this is the best worker, this is our best employee. And we've spoken about this before, that when you have ego involved, for me, it kind of masks a lot of what your true intention really is. And what that does, going back to if everyone had a lover face, there'd be no issues, but there would be. Because like Chip said, evil will always be around. They see 100 people with this love face, these are the guys to get, Like they're the people who will know these are the ones to attack, which is why you should always have that warrior kind of ready. Another thing I wanted to say, and I'm trying not to write things down at all because the conversations have just been going great. But the evil is always there, and you don't know who the enemy is. I guess instead of me trying to help everyone right away or being that person to help people, now it's more somewhat analyze, somewhat make an assessment. This goes back to me saying I like to learn people kind of quickly, and I've been better at it. And someone said to me once, because I would talk about wherever I was, I would help people before I helped myself. And I said to this person, well, that's what Jesus would do. And she said to me, she's like, Jason, Jesus helped a ton of people, but he was wise enough to know who not to help. And I said, whoa. Because I'm sure he has the ability to judge who wasn't the greatest of people. And if he did help them, it was purposeful for that person. So wisdom plays a big factor in my life with trying to know who and who not to help, who and who not to love.
To say, I mean, I 100% agree with what you guys are saying, and to reiterate what David was saying, if it were a perfect world and everyone had that lover face, we'd be good. Everything would be kosher. But in the broken and sinful world that we live in now, maybe in the Garden of Eden, right? If Eve didn't bite the apple and we were all in the garden, like assuming they reproduced. Like, let's just say we were all in the garden and everything was kosher. Like, no problem. I think that's everyone's got the lover face. Like, hey, Jason, you got some new leaves on there. Nice. I like the new threads you got on your.
But think about just for a second, you just said, because you just mentioned about Adam and Eve. But think about it, that we only blame Eve. But what about if Adam wouldn't have taken that bite too?
His leader faith.
Exactly. But I mean, here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize in the, the kids series or whatever, every time Eve takes that bite, it's always assumed, people think that Adam was somewhere off, like naming animals or like,
Ooh, I never thought about it like that.
People think like Adam was out doing something else.
Counting sheep.
Or he counting sheep, like hanging out with God or something, while Eve was alone and took the apple. He was right there. He was right next to Eve when she took that bite.
So
that first, what's that?
You think so?
He was. He was.
I just never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I never thought about it either.
No, it's in the Bible. He was right there.
He was right there.
Yeah.
That's just what I pictured too. I don't know.
And because the cartoons, everything is like, oh, Eve snuck away and bit it. Adam was right there, and yet he did nothing.
So
that first part of passivity, that the first Adam, like some people, refer to Jesus as the second Adam, he's what took all the mess up of what the first Adam did, and Jesus was he's the second Adam. He corrected it all.
he's what Adam should have been.
He's what Adam should have been, correct.
That's
So when you look at the first Adam, his passivity, him not saying anything when Eve took the bite, and then when God came back, who did he go to? Who was he looking for? Was he like, hey, Eve, come here? No, he said, Adam, come here. What happened? What's going on? Where are you? So even though Eve was the one that took the bite and Adam was passively allowing this to happen, Adam still had the responsibility to respond to God. So, yeah, people are quick to blame Eve, but hey, don't forget, Adam was right there too. He wasn't away naming sheep. He was right there. And then when God came back to see what happened, he called Adam. Hey, tell me what happened. He's like, well, she took the bite. You're right. That's what happened. He blamed Eve. So he was passive, and then he couldn't take ownership of what happened. So he's like, well, she's the one that did it. But he's holding you accountable.
But when God said, where are you? He knew exactly where they were, right? He was asking, where are you at?
Yes.
And Jesus did a lot of the same things.
Ooh.
And he made it, that's why, and he made it really personal. He would ask people, who do you say I am?
I feel like all of these missed opportunities, right? What we're talking about, people always trying to surround themselves with either situations that tell them, hey, it's okay what you're doing, or friends, because if it fails, they have somebody to blame except themselves.
Ooh.
And I feel like, look at it, even the story with Adam and Eve. Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the serpent. Nobody took ownership for what just happened. Imagine if that would have been the case. I'd been like, God would have been like, okay, I forgive you. It could have been that way.
Could have, yeah.
But there's no accountability anymore. Okay, the neighbor slaps the other neighbor. Not only that, injures the other neighbor. And there's no accountability. It's like, well, I only defended myself. Or all of these things like the ego that we allow ourselves to just cross that line that it should never cross because there's no accountability. And I feel like that accountability ties hand in hand with that respect.
Absolutely. So if I go a step further with accountability, and this involves ego, the things we do that we get upset about, or let's say you get into a fight with somebody, verbal argument with your spouse, your girlfriend, regardless of what happened or what caused it or anything, if I remove ego, I blame myself first. And this goes with the quote that someone told me, how you treat others is how you treat yourself. You dislike somebody and you yell at somebody, or if you're angry at somebody, it's because you're angry at yourself first. Because if there was no anger there, sure, there could be some facts that could cause an argument, but there would be no anger to cause the fight. So it's a quote that I've constantly been trying to figure out the meaning to. So how you treat others is how you treat yourself, and slowly it's making sense. So if you're mad at somebody, you're the way I think it is, I'm mad at myself first, and kind of go from there as the lowest foundation, the lowest step of understanding what is the situation about. Because that emotional concept or component of it is a big factor to why we act a certain way. And being a man, I don't know if you've heard of like Jocko Willink and David Goggins, they get to a point where they take the emotional concept out of it and they actually think things through. And when you take the emotional out of it, you're kind of taking the ego as well. And you're looking at things through a framework and structure of essentially just components.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm trying to say with all this is when you see things with just components, you can take accountability. In the military, this happened, this failed. You're taking things through components because you're eliminating the ego, you're eliminating emotion. And I think as a man, we need to do that many times and kind of check yourself when you're angry, check yourself when you think you're right, and trying to force that upon somebody. So that's just my stance on accountability. How you treat others is how you treat yourself.
I think it's an interesting thing to think about, right? Like, where do you draw the line? Where's that line where the respect plays into you not wavering on your beliefs? Because as a man, personally, that's where I'm at, where it's really hard for me to be like, I want to show this person grace, especially if they disagree and they may not believe what I believe, but I'm also not about to let my beliefs, I'm not going to let my beliefs get walked over because you're sensitive or because I'm afraid it's going to lead into argument. Because, like, this person may totally be on the opposite side and not believe a word, may not believe in God, may not have faith, and they're like, yeah, that's totally wrong. And it's like, where do you...
Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, right, if you think about it, and I love this little video that it was like the actually grown son with the older father in a park, and the dad kept asking him, oh, what is that? And the son was like, it's a butterfly. And then like a few seconds later, oh, what is that? And be like, oh, that's a butterfly. And to the point that the son got frustrated with the dad, why you keep asking the same thing? And I'm actually telling you all of these things. And then all of a sudden, when the father saw how frustrated the son was, he stopped him, gave him a little notebook, and he was like, read that page. And then it just brought him back when the kid was young, and he was asking his dad, oh, Dad, what is that? And the father answered, so loving. Every single time, he never got frustrated. So I feel like because when we look at our Father, our connection with God, right? How does he respond in our response to his calling? How many times are we rebellious against him, yet he still responds with love and kindness? We're still here. Obviously, he's not done with us yet, because we would have been somewhere else. We wouldn't be here, right? But at the same time, we also live in a broken world that how do you respond with somebody with that love aspect when, the only way we know how to say it, right? I either respond good with the pat on the back or with the kicking up
The balls.
Coconuts.
And the coconut balls, whatever.
Yeah.
Cajones, whatever.
So it's like, sometimes we do have to respond with love. Sometimes we have to respond maybe with aggression. Because some of these people, I feel, to what Jason was saying, it's just you have to assess the situation and see exactly what situation are you in order for you to get in tune with that side of you that, okay, I need to respond to this person with love. I need to show them that. I need to be a friend. Or do I need to be a warrior for them?
How many times do we answer God needing something from us?
Oh man. Oh
Right?
man.
We always pray, God, this, that, and that. And may not answer to everything, but when he does answer, it's what we wanted, if not more, what's better for us. But when he calls and says, son, daughter, I need you to do this. How many people ignore that call? And still, we ignore it, still
many people-
responds with love.
How many people leave it on red?
Yeah. Or don't hear it at all.
Missed opportunity.
Ignore him completely. Missed opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
So I had this conversation with Angelo yesterday. That was yesterday? I spoke to you
Well, today's
about
Friday. So.
today's.
Saturday.
I was like,
I'm
You
just
can ask
messing
any.
with Jason.
Why are you
can ask.
messing with me? 'Cause I'm like, was it Friday?
You can ask
What?
anybody I work with. I ask, am I working this weekend? Because I work every other weekend. I ask what day it is because there's so many things on my calendar. So I'm better off asking somebody live than relying on anything else. What I wanted to say is yesterday I talked to Angelo, and we were talking about asking God for things. And I don't ask God for anything because I don't pray like that. I've spoken to Angelo about what it's like to pray or how do I pray. And I told him that a lot of things are just coming my way. And these are all gifts, but I've never asked for them. And I've never been the person to pray and ask for things because I feel like I'm not deserving of that. And Angelo said I was, but
You are.
I don't know that.
So
You are.
I don't ask him for anything.
Can I tell you just why?
Sure.
Look at the cross. And where Christ said, I'm dying for you personally. It didn't come to me. Meaning like, when you alone are standing at the foot of the cross, he's looking at you directly. Because when it's individual and it's personal with every single one of us. And because he saw the value, he saw Jason, as the ultimate man that he created, that he invested, that he saw the final product that you're going to become. He said, yeah, he is worth it. I'm not going to come down from this cross because I'm dying for him. That one day, he's going to answer my calling.
And I urge you to change the way you pray. Because
Oh, I don't pray. That's the thing. I do and I don't. So I think speaking to him is different than praying, but it might exactly be the same thing.
conversation with God can still...
Yeah.
Some people just have normal conversations, and in a way that is prayer. Prayer is talking to God.
And
Whether
then
you do it in a humbling way or whether you're just having a conversation with him. But I guess my point is, and Maverick City Music has a song about that, God problems. There are some problems that we as humans are not strong enough to fix, or we don't have the willpower, the discipline to fix because it's our human nature. So at times like that, yeah, we absolutely have to, we can't do it alone, And sometimes even if you have other people, sometimes it's an internal thing that you yourself cannot fix, right? So in those situations, only God can fix that. But at the same time, you also have to have a desire to want to fix that. Ask and you shall receive.
And I think that's the thing. So with certain things in my life that need to be fixed and corrected over the past, in your past, right? Everyone has things they have to fix and correct. I've always had the desire to fix it. It's just getting past certain things like the emotional component, just the logistics of it. There's certain things that you kind of have to push through, and certain things you kind of have to strategize, and then there's things that are beyond that, which I think are of that realm with God. But even so, I never seeked or asked for that help, and I think that's this whole transition, right? This whole understanding that there is this spiritual component of things that is an extra, not even an extra, but just a big part of how to complete things, how to move forward, how to take this walk. And
But I would encourage you, man. I love where you're at, But I would encourage you to not just try to separate like, oh, this is a me thing versus a God thing. Just put it all. You know, there's nothing too big or too small. Because I think that's when we start to carry more of a load than we have to. Because like, oh, God, he's too busy. He doesn't need this. I'll keep this. And we end up doing that. Because, dude, I'm the same way. And I end up with like a big old thing on my backpack. And I'm like, the one thing that I'm like, all right, God, can you just do that one? Because I can't carry anymore. And just to continue to live life with that heaviness, it's just, it takes a toll on you. You know, so, and I love when we're talking about it because I'm like, and this is how I actually explained it to a friend when we were in high school. We were in my kitchen, and he was like, "How do you talk to God? Like, how do you talk to God?" I'm like, "I really just talk to him like a friend, and I don't know. That's just what I've done. I talk to him like a friend because how can I introduce you to a friend if I don't even know him? How can I tell you how great David and Chip are if I didn't know David and Chip?" Right? And it's all just like, I have that experience and relationship with them to really speak on who I know these men to be. So, you know, the conversation with God is just trying to get to know him more and really develop that friendship so that when I do tell people, it's just like, hey, this is my buddy Jesus. Not that one, this is a different Jesus.
Well, two things I would say. Like, look at, I mean, and Angelo can back me up or correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at him as a father figure, right? To Lana. Even though she doesn't ask him, I'm just want to build on what you said, because you said like things are given to you, obviously, you know, by our Heavenly Father. And it's like, and you don't ask for them. It's like, just because you don't ask for him, that doesn't mean because he's a good father, he doesn't know what to give you. As Angelo, you know, looks at Lana, it's like, okay, it's time for her to eat. Lana doesn't tell him, hey, daddy, I'm hungry. Like, he already has that ready for her. Or, hey, daddy, I'm cold. Or, I need a shirt to be put on because I'm cold. Or, shoes to walk because, you know, there's unlevel ground that I need to walk through and my feet are going to hurt. So God equips us, even though we don't know what to ask, or even though we don't think we're worthy, he still gives us that. And the second thing I'm going to say that it's related to that is because the Bible says that not, you know, Christ came to die for us because, you know, we're going to follow him. Even though he knew that not all of us will follow him, he still chose to die. But he chose to die when? He said, while we were still sinners. So it's like, I want you to see the value that you hold in Jesus' eyes. It's not that, you know, he just came down and he said, potentially Jason is going to, follow me. No, while we were the worst version of ourselves, he said, I'm going to die for you because you can become that precious jewel that only through him you can achieve that. But it's this constant, dependency on, you on God, not vice versa. Obviously, like, he wants us, but he doesn't need us. However, we need him, but so many times we don't want him. We act that we, need him. I mean, that we depend on him and we need him and whatnot, but our life says something else. It's like we don't want him in our life. In this moment of glory and happiness and whatnot, God, it's like, whatever. My life is perfect. But God wants to be the center of everything. He wants, when we celebrate, he wants to be there. When we're down, he wants to be there. Our focus should be on him and him alone. And I get it. We all fall short of that. Because we're all contemplating, we live in a sinful world. But, you have so much value. The potential that you think you have, or that your other friends feed into you and tell you, like, hey, you have so much potential. We see the thirst in you for your relationship with God. That's the same reason he died for you, because he saw that value. He didn't want you to be in a place where you're being kept as like, well, I can't ask God for anything. It's like, because he's so personal with you, it's like, ask me anything in my name, and if it's my will, I will give it to you.
It's interesting.
And you think about it, We're talking about missed opportunities, and God does not want us to be a missed opportunity. Why do you think he still reaches out to us in whatever season we are? Even if we've turned our backs on him, he still keeps that door just enough open for you to come see the light and come through. He's never stopped. But the missed opportunities are more on us than it is on him.
It's definitely on us.
I like the story when Jesus says, like, I'm at the door knocking. Whoever hears and opens the door, I will come in. I will dine with him, and he will dine with me. I feel like that's so many times the missed opportunities, because in our house, the music is playing too loud. I'm being too distracted with, having people over, or the bad situation that had just happened, an illness in my life, all of that. But yet, he's knocking at the door. He's never going to burst out the door open. Well, I wouldn't say never. There's some instances when
He could.
yeah, or he did. But so many times, it's just he patiently waits. Because how much more it's that when we open up the door and we see exactly who stands in front of us. It's that moment that we truly encounter Christ for the very first time, and we understand that we solely depend on him. Solely depend on him. Nothing that I can give you can bring you the satisfaction that Christ is bringing you. That's why I just, this is like a moment, I guess we're pouring into you in a sense that is just, you have so much value and so much potential, so much worth to God, that no matter even if I would knew all the languages of this world, cannot put it in words. The only way that God used the sign language, he did this. And he bowed his spirit and gave himself up for me and you.
I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
And keep in mind, you'll hear the words "follow Jesus," and it's a very broad term. As people of faith, what he really wants is for us to receive him. Following, receiving, two very different things.
Yeah.
When you follow someone, you're like, yeah, it's kind of like Instagram. Oh yeah, I follow that person on Instagram, right? I'll see their post every now and then.
And then Jesus said, I have more followers than you.
Yeah.
I only have 12.
To receive
first
God,
follower.
to receive God means to do it with love, and to do it wholeheartedly. And the book I'm reading talks about a term that I'm going to start using quite a bit. It's called CEOs. CEO Christians. Christmas and Easter only.
Oh, I like that.
But yeah, it's important to know the distinction between being, I guess saying a follower of Christ is not bad, right? But more importantly, the act of receiving Christ, which I think happens through baptism, is one of the important things to note there.
I think the way I grew up was, when you say follow Jesus, follow in the footsteps, I would essentially just try and do everything that he did. And
You're over there spitting on your classmates and stuff.
yeah.
Be healed.
But the whole thing with helping
Slightly.
people,
Yeah.
helping people seemed to be something that I thought was a great thing, until you realize that not everyone can be helped, and not everyone should be helped, at least not by you, And, I work in a field where you're there to help people. People are sick, right? I've been in the healthcare field for a very long time, off and on. And you think you can't go wrong with just providing that help and providing for the sick. And then you realize that sometimes it's not what is necessary all the time to be that first person to help, because there are other people to help, right? But me, I would stop with whatever I'm doing to help whatever's in front of me, whoever's in front of me, whatever situation, first before myself. And sure, it can be good because you're helping a situation, but then you may be missing this opportunity to help where you're supposed to be. And there are certain people for that situation. And it goes with a lot of things in life. But going back to following Jesus, I used to think, oh, this is what he did, all the time, not having a full grasp or understanding of how he actually did help, how he actually kind of had his own strategic plan for who he helped and what he did. And it's just a matter of trying to, number one, understand that. Number two, creating a different foundation for who I help, because at this point in my life, I'm really not helping anybody. I'm focused on me. I'm focused on my spiritual growth. I'm focused on just the foundations of being able to survive on this earth. These are just different components than what they were 5 years ago.
But I think that's a great place to be, because how can you really help someone else if you can't even help yourself first?
Exactly.
So I think like you kind of taking that step back and realizing I have some things I need to square away first, and then I'll actually be better able to help not just that person, but you'll still have some for yourself as well. Because I think sometimes, especially as men, right, we're such fixers that we'll keep ourselves busy fixing everybody else's problem because it makes us feel good. It gives us a sense of accomplishment. That's why video games are very successful with men. But then it also distracts us from dealing with the real problems inside that we don't want to deal with. Like, silence is really hard for us because we're like, okay, when all the noise is gone, what's left?
Why is it so quiet?
Why is it so quiet? What do I really have to deal with now? It's...
I think you had mentioned it before, when things do get quiet and things get kind of good, right?
Yeah.
And comfortable. It's a scary thing.
It is.
And it should be. And I think when it gets to that point with me, you have that initial fear of, why is everything so great? But that just means get to work. At least it has been. And get to work, and then also you're in a clear mind to create. Those are the two things that I think of. When things are really good, you need to continue with that momentum and have that ability to create and use that effort, somewhere else.
Yeah.
Exactly. Be comfortable with it.
Yeah, some people stay comfortable, and it's a scary thing. I've been there. And people are a creature of comfort. I'm trying to think of who said that.
Yeah, people are creatures of comfort. Yeah, you're right.
And also
But
a creature.
it's like in rock climbing, right? When you're climbing up a rock, like this big ass thing, like you have to kind of put checkpoints, right? So if you slip and fall, that last one that you put, that's where you'll be at. But if you're going through life too fast and you're not setting up like these anchors, these checkpoints, once you fall, you're gonna go all the way down. But if you take enough time to anchor in, slow down just enough. It's not a race to the top, but just make sure that when you do fall, you have that next level to catch you. And I think a lot of us are just so quick to just boom, 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 get to the top, boom, 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 get to the next peak, get to the next. And we don't slow down enough to make sure, hey, are we stabilizing? Is this growth, is this journey going to be sustainable? Or am I just speeding through it just like I do everything else?
Anchor in.
Anchor in. Anchor in.
It's funny when you say rock climbing. I was a rock climbing instructor at Export in Piper's Alley.
What?
I was really young.
Okay, that's one thing I didn't know
What
about
haven't you done?
This guy has really done.
This was in Piper's Alley. My friend, John Girk, great guy, amazing rock climbing instructor. We bartended together. And he's like, hey, we need another instructor. He's like, you can do it, don't worry. I'll teach you everything. And he was an amazing rock climber, super fit. And he teaches me everything, and it's like got this auto belay system. You just harness up, and if you fall, it just brings you down slowly. And I remember he was showing off. He's like, let me just show you how to climb the wall real quick. And I knew I have rock climbing experience, but not teaching, He's like, let me show you how to climb this wall. And he's just like, all you do is start here, and then flies up the wall. And I was like, come on, man. He's like, no, let me teach you. And he showed me just different techniques that I didn't know. And in the beginning, when I would be instructing these courses for like an hour, just call people from the gym, like, rock climbing is, in progress. If you guys want to stop by, I'm over here. And I would show off, this is my ego phase. I would show off and kind of do the same thing, like, oh, it's not that bad, and I would climb, and then I realized that, as I instructed longer, that it was important for me to take my time and conserve energy if you have proper form. With anything, with exercise, it's all about energy conservation. And I realized that slowing down is the fastest way up. And one of the phrases that always comes to mind is, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You guys have heard of that? Like, that goes for everything. I know it was used in the military, but it's really used in racing, like car racing, like F1. And it's funny, I have this shirt on.
I just noticed that. I love that shirt.
Yeah, F1.
Can I have it?
Yeah.
Take it off.
Right now.
We're on a break, right? Camera's off.
Yeah.
But if you do everything slowly, and Angela said, step back and slow down with certain things, you get to see so much more. And I don't know why I was talking about rock climbing, but I realized that from my first day doing it to the last day, it was much a slower process in my brain when actually carrying out, going up on that rock. And it was much faster getting to the top that way, going slower.
That's a beautiful place, man. And that's literally, that's a great way to summarize today's conversation about missed opportunities and sign language. And the question now becomes, have you slowed down enough? Have I slowed down enough to recognize potential gaps of missed opportunities? Have I slowed down enough to actually listen for the music in the middle of all the noise, for that sign, that specific language that God's using to speak to me, to reach out to me, to get a message across from me, whether it's from somebody else I'm sitting right next to, someone on the phone, music, a movie, whatever that I'm taking in, God will speak to you the best way that you will listen. But are you slowing down enough to actually listen? And listen to actually listen, and not just listen to respond. Like, before God can even finish his message to you, we're like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, why don't you listen to the whole message first? Get it all.
Well, when he was talking about the rock climbing, so many times we take the same path up. But so many times it's like, well, if I would have just put my foot on this and that would have cut, X amount of time or X amount of effort. If I would have just slowed down and actually see that, extra step that I missed, or that one step that I missed.
And if you're open to it visually, all these different pathways are there on this wall. And you can actually get through it in many different ways. There's a struggle if you go one direction on the wall, but you can position yourself anywhere you want to be on that wall.
Yeah.
And that's what the adventure of life is doing the hard path, the quick path, slow path, and then kind of contrasting in your brain like, what do I learn from this?
Falling, and then taking a different path.
I like that.
But there's only one path to heaven, and that's through Jesus.
Amen to that.
And with that, appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming back. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube channel has been blowing up. Our boy David here has he has the best reel on statistically. Like, people are loving when this dude drops bombs. And it makes sense. This guy, when he speaks, he has so much wisdom. So make sure you check us out on YouTube. Check us out on iTunes. And if you guys are Spotify, iTunes, please leave us a rating and review, because it helps us grow this message. Other than that, we appreciate y'all. We'll see you guys next week. And
Redwood out.
Redwood out.